Hi, everyone. Welcome to AAJA's Small Market Broadcasting Group. I kind of made it fancy this year, or this month, where it's the inside scoop from a recruiter, where we do these hangouts all the time, or at least once a month, to make sure that everybody in the industry can get kind of up to speed and make sure you guys get a job or the tools that you need. So today I want to introduce Kevin Olivas. Kevin, how's it going? What are you up to today? I know you've got a lot of things going on this year.
We call that Thursday, but yeah, I've got a lot of things going on, but that's fine. Good afternoon, Meg. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me as part of this event. I'm grateful for a chance to talk with some potential prospects and to answer people's questions about their.
What is it that you do? You're a recruiting manager at Sinclair.
Right. And Sinclair Broadcast Group has more than 60 television and digital news operations nationwide. Our presence spans a pretty wide gamut, from as small as Market 200, which is Kirksville, Missouri, Ottumwa, Iowa, to as large as Washington, D.C., which is WJLA, ABC 7, and News Channel 8. We also have a separate D.C. bureau when we have a national digital news operation as well, and in addition to all that, we have a newly launched Sunday investigative news show called Full Measure with former CBS News correspondent Cheryl Atkinson. So we have a lot, and we're constantly on the lookout for great talent, and talent includes everybody connected with the storytelling process, from people who are on the air to digital journalists to producers to videographers to assignment desk folks. Basically anybody who plays a role, and that includes news executives as well. So anybody who plays a role in the storytelling process, if they're good, we want to talk with them.
That's a huge ground that you cover. So a few of the topics that we're going to want to hit, very basic stuff, is get a hold of you or a recruiter in general, getting a gig and job and whatever it may be as far as their medium is concerned, and then the importance of their reputation as a journalist, and this is something that you had mentioned. So let's get started on that first question of ours and what many people want to know. First and foremost, I mean, how the heck do we get a hold of you, Kevin?
I'm one of these folks who I like being out there, and I like meeting people. I enjoy it. It reminds me of my own days as a professional journalist and learning people's stories. So for me, I tend to make my stuff pretty public. I'm fine with people calling or emailing me. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, where Sinclair is headquartered. My email is KD like David, OLI, V like Victor, A like Apple, S like Sam, at S like Sam, B like Baltimore, G like George, T like Tom, V like Victor.com. KD Olivas at sbgtv.com. So that's me. And for other recruiters, it varies. You know, there's job fairs. You can see a photo of me. That's me at, I believe, this year's National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Minneapolis. We also recruited at this year's NAHJ/RTDNA/SPJ conference. It was actually last September in Orlando, Florida. I hope to be back at that event again. I have made our folks aware of the AAJA convention in Las Vegas this August as well. And we are planning to be at the combined NABJ-NHJ convention in Washington, D.C., which will also be in August.
So is it as easy as just sending you an email, what's going on? Because, I mean, I've talked to some of my coworkers and colleagues who, you know, I tell them I talk to you, and they're like, how do I do that? I mean, it just seems like a nerve-wracking, it's just, you know, you're talking to a recruiter. It's fancy.
It might seem that way. Here's the standard advice I give to people, especially folks that might seem like they're going to be overcome with nerves. A couple of things to remember. One, the person who's across the table from you, or in this case on the other side of a hookup like this, that person was once you. They know what it's like to go for that first job or maybe even that second job, how nerve-wracking it can be, all the different pressures that you have, all the different expectations that you're expected to meet to be a really desirable candidate. They know what it's like. They've been there themselves. So that's one thing to kind of keep nerves in check. It's okay to be nervous, but you don't want to let your nerves get the best of you. The second thing is this, and it's also, I think, equally important. For a recruiter, especially at a company like ours where we're national, we get a very large amount of people who want to be on television and who want to be part of our news teams. So going through reel after reel and resume after resume, that can be a lot. And you're always seemingly looking for what feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. You want to find that superstar. The recruiter you're talking to generally wants you to be that superstar. So bear those things in mind when you're talking to recruiters. It's okay to be nervous. Give it your best. Be yourself. Mind things like paying attention to proper journalism ethics, and don't become goofy or make yourself seem like you're more than you actually are. But realize that you likely have something very valuable to bring to the table. If you have a desire to tell stories, if you enjoy writing, which no matter what happens with technology and all the different buzzers and gizmos that may come along to be able to help you to tell stories, in the end, it's still all about great writing and writing to pictures and writing to images and writing to the web and all those things. Writing is still the key. If you have all of that, if you have an innate sense of curiosity, if you always want to find out people's stories, what makes them tick, what other layers there are to stories, different ways to tell stories that people may not have considered before, different sources they may not have considered, or stories themselves that may not have crossed people's radar screens, but that are valuable, that can really make a difference in your community, have an impact in your community. All those things are valuable, and if those are part of the DNA that make up the journalist that you are, then apply those, use that to sell yourself.
All right, selling yourself, and that brings me to the next question of, all right, let's say I'm the reporter. Okay, I know that you've been in my shoes before. I got my nerves in check. I can write okay or decent. There's also a sense of you as a reporter or whoever you are as a storyteller, you have to market yourself. And I use myself as an example. I've got my website, my resume and stuff, and I think we connected through a previous but what else are you looking for as far as making sure that you can find me online or on YouTube?
Well, in this day and age, I'd expect you, as any journalist, no matter what medium they might work in, to be as somebody who is easily accessible. I want you to be as accessible to the audience, with reasonable bounds being considered there, as you would be to me. What you've done, Mega, is a prime example of that. Having a site, having a social media presence, and really not only having that presence and that reachability, but also displaying what it is that you're capable of, showing what it is that you could bring to a news organization. That's the selling yourself part of it. Here's what I can do for you. Here's the kind of storytelling that I've done, whether it's investigative, whether it's sports, whether it's features, entertainment, whatever it is. Here's what I've done that's different than what everybody else has done, that might bring in a larger audience, whether that audience is online, whether it's over the air, or a combination of the two. If you have those kind of things, you have those kind of tools and that kind of talent, then you're going to draw a lot of interest.
I'm curious, actually. Someone had messaged me about how about an agent? Does that change the game as far as how you work and operate?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to give a blanket statement about agents and whether they might change things, good, bad, or otherwise. Usually, when you're starting out in your career, obviously, or maybe even after that first job, it's debatable as to whether or not the agent might really be helpful to you, or if they're trying to push you to places that might be really too much for where you're at in your career. But it's tough to say. I tend to try to shy away from blanket statements, because obviously they're not true in every case. But I don't think I would look at somebody quicker or with a different perspective because they had an agent as opposed to them not having an agent. I'm looking at them, not whether or not they have an agent.
So when does it become, let's say I email you, I introduce myself, and la-di-da, when does it become irritating, and when do I need to know when to stop, and boundaries? Have you been in that position?
I've had that question asked to me a lot, and there are times where people will contact me a lot, but it's rare. It doesn't happen that often. But there are people who you just know there's not going to be anything that's going to click, and they'll contact over and over again until I'm not able to get back to them. I tend to get very busy, and that's just kind of the nature of my job, but it's the nature of really any recruiter's job in media, where you get busy. A lot of people who want to be in this industry, a lot of people who want to be on television. In some cases just to be on television, in other cases because they genuinely feel that television is a way for them to exercise their passion of telling stories. Those are the folks I really want to talk to. I think it varies from recruiter to recruiter, and even from news director to news director. One of the pieces of advice I've given to people I've mentored in the past is ask recruiters. Your job as a journalist is to ask questions, to find out the truth, find out facts. Well, in this case, use your career as a story to tell that story, but at the same time, you're seeking out the attention of news directors, and as we know, news directors, no matter what size market they're in, they could be in the smallest, most remote market in the United States, they're still getting pounded with a lot of emails and a lot of correspondence from people who want to be on television. So my advice is ask the folks you're trying to contact, how comfortable are they with you contacting them? How frequently can you contact them to let them know that you're interested, that you want to be part of their team, and at the same time not make a pest of yourself. It's okay
Really,
to try to find something out, so how do you do that? You ask questions. If you're going to be a journalist, asking questions is your job.
you really have to be upfront, and I think sometimes when you're starting out, I mean, I've talked to a lot of students. I was there myself too, and I'm still going through those kind of the process. It does get kind of to be upfront. I think has been really beneficial, at least for me. But at the same time, it's like to get to that point. Woo, yeah, I get you. This is the one topic that you brought up to me. It's social media and your reputation as a storyteller. What did you want to emphasize in this one? And I know we talked about it, but it's self-explanatory and obvious, but at the same time, you wanted to touch on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to talk about it anyway. I think it is self-explanatory, but why not talk about it? That's your footprint. And remember, anything you put out in social media, I'm sure everybody who's on this communication have heard it time and again. If you put it out there, even if you delete it, it's not really deleted. It's somewhere out there and it's recoverable by somebody else. Be very careful about what you put on social media. It follows you. Your stock in trade is your credibility, and that's what makes a journalist. No matter whether you're a producer, you're on air, you're online, doesn't matter. That's your stock in trade. That's your ticket to the party of being a storyteller. You want to be very careful about what you put out there, the language you use to put out there, because you would. And even like when you're breaking stories, to make sure that when you do and you're going to put them out on social media, they're accurate before you put them out. You don't want to be remembered as somebody, well, they got the story out quick, but it was wrong. You don't want that hanging over you. At the same time, you also don't want to have like a flip comment about something that could come back and haunt you later on. Nobody wants that. So that's the thing is if you're going to be on social media, whether it's Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, doesn't matter what it is, LinkedIn, make sure Instagram, anything, whenever you put something out about yourself or your stories, make sure it's accurate and be very careful. Don't put out something out there that's going to haunt you later on, because it'll stick to you like a tattoo and you can't get rid of it.
Do you have any examples without naming any names or anything? Just curious.
Off the top of my head, I don't. I'd be kind of hesitant to do that anyway, because it might end up identifying somebody. I'd rather not do that. That's not fair to that other person. But that can happen. And how many times have you been on TV Spy where you've seen that very scenario play out, where somebody posted something and later on it came back to haunt them? In some cases, people have lost their jobs over what they posted online. So it's just as being careful around the sense of, in television, anytime you're in a studio, consider it hot, even if it's not. Somebody makes a remark, you never know where it's going to be picked up and relayed. Same thing with social media. You never know where it's going to be picked up, what people will do with it. So if you're going to put it out there, make sure it's accurate and that it conforms to journalistic ethics. Otherwise, it will haunt you.
It's so self-explanatory, but that's something that to remind yourself every day, especially the whole hot mic thing kind of goes through with social media as well. And when you're talking about that and your reputation, be careful what you say. And nowadays you can go live on Facebook, which sometimes honestly kind of scares me, because when I'm on live and I'm just using my cell phone, nobody knows really what I'm doing essentially. And then they're like talking to me, and I'm like, hold on, like, you know what I mean? Like that, the way that the technology is moving is kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of adjustments that have to be made to it, and anything that's a new way of telling stories has with it the same responsibility to ethics that doing it in print would be, or traditional television or radio. Those rules don't change just because the technology changes.
Right. Exactly. All right, hold on. I think I've, another message that I got was the importance of physical appearance.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
I think you can hear me.
Colleague, that's all. Yeah, importance of physical appearance?
Yeah, I mean, it is the truth of the matter. I mean, your looks matter. I mean, obviously, looks do matter, at least in TV.
Right, but that's just a subjective thing. Yes, they do matter. It's television. It is a visual medium, so that does play a role. But I think that the thing is, I'm going to use my. It's tough to separate this because obviously I work for Sinclair, but my own kind of personal philosophy on it. So this is more my opinion than something that would be representative of Sinclair. But what I'm looking for is a good storyteller. Period. I mean, you could be knocked down, beautiful and just an amazing physical specimen to behold, but if there's nothing beyond that, that's not going to last very long. So yes, it's a visual medium. People do tune in. Looks do have a role. At the same time, so does good storytelling. I'd want somebody. Bottom line is, I'm looking for good storytellers. If you have something else that accentuates your physical appearance, that's fine. But I think it's a subjective thing, and by subjective I mean it's this. I hate to be cliched, but the whole thought of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. People's opinions on that vary from person to person, obviously. So from news director to news director, from news hiring manager to news hiring manager, that can be such a subjective thing. One person might think, wow, that person's just got everything I'm looking for. Another recruiter could look at the exact same person and say, well, they got this, but not that. They're not quite ready for me yet. Subjective. Two different opinions about the same thing. So for me, yeah, it's a part of it, but I still want to know, can you deliver the goods? Ultimately, can you help us as a company? That's what I'm looking for. That's my driving thing. That's the thing that I want to find out. Can you tell stories that have an impact in the community, that are a sense of accountability journalism, and ultimately make a difference, at the same time help to grow an audience? That's I hate this phrase, at the end of the day, but it applies here. When all is said and done, there's another way to put it, we really do have to help our company move forward. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want. So if that's what you got, then I'm interested in you.
And as far as a storytelling ability, I mean, there's kind of a difference I've seen in reporters where, yeah, you can state the facts and you're really great at it, but there are those other reporters who I've really looked up to where they can bring perspective. Is that someone, how do you find the person, and then when you do it, how do you hone down on them? And, I mean, there's a big difference in those types of storytelling abilities.
There are.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does. But you'd be amazed at how many times recruiters and news folks kind of act as baseball scouts, and they really are able to find those great prospects. And we talk to each other. That's one of many ways that I find out about really good people. We talked earlier about your reputation online and how you have to be careful with it. At the same time, if you have a good reputation, if you're somebody who's known as someone who's easy to work with, does a great job, comes up with these really cool, interesting ways to tell stories that others haven't thought of before, that's still within the bounds of proper journalistic ethics. But it's just like, wow, I never thought of telling a story that way. That's so cool. And makes people want to keep watching it, whether, again, no matter the media platform, on air or online. People will talk about that, and that's a good thing. That's the kind of reputation you do want to have. So if that goes along with your name, then that's a great thing. And that is one of many ways that I find out about people. I'll get it by word of mouth. I'll get people to say, hey, so-and-so is really good. One of the things I should have mentioned prior to this is, how I ended up at Sinclair and being a recruiter. I've been part of Sinclair as the news recruiting manager since last June. And prior to that, I was the resource and guidance manager for the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. And I was at one time a storyteller myself, a radio news reporter in Los Angeles, which, if you couldn't tell by my accent, is my hometown. And then I was also a news writer for what was then KCAL Television in Los Angeles, is now KCAL KCBS. And so those experiences gave me an opportunity to get to know a lot of people. And as you'll no doubt learn in journalism, and I'm quite sure many people in the audience already have learned this, is it's a very familial kind of a business where even though there's a lot of people in it, and it's all the way across the country and even beyond, a lot of people just tend to know other people.
Yeah.
And it's a very kind of a familial thing where I mean, I've even, like, on my wife and I, when we took our honeymoon, we went to London. I ran into somebody we know in London. The honest thing. So it's just amazing where you'll find people that you just don't expect to find, but you know them. And that's where having a good reputation can really help you as a storyteller. Where and to me, this is something that we also are concerned about when we're looking at prospects, and no doubt this is the same with recruiters at other media companies as well. How well do you work with others? How well do you absorb constructive criticism? And criticism is really good. That's meant to help you. That's meant to point out, okay, well, here's what you're doing right. And usually when I do critiques, I try to find that with folks, because oftentimes that's there. There's usually something they're doing, in my opinion, and it's subjective, that I think they're doing right, and areas where I think I could make some suggestions on how I think it might be improved. But again, that's my opinion. Another recruiter, a news director, might have a completely different opinion about the exact same thing. But somebody who can absorb that criticism, somebody who's really great at working with others, is a good newsroom citizen, those are things that we consider. And those are things that I would think a lot of other recruiters do as well. Again, you look at TV Spy or other things where journalists get in trouble for things they do when they're not even on the job, and that affects their jobs. That can happen. It's human nature, but you want to make sure that your reputation is a good one. And if you do have that, that's a tattoo you want to have. That's something you want to stick with you no matter where you go. That will get you jobs.
I'm not a fan of tattoos, at least for me, but I'm a fan of that tattoo. But hey, I know you don't have too much time, so just one more question before we go, and then obviously the contact info. But this is what I want to show. You're the reporter who, okay, you got your nerves down, you contact you and all this stuff, and you think that I'm good or whatever it is. Now, how do I get a gig?
Well, now here's the important thing to know about me. I don't actually do the hiring, but I'm more like, I made the allusion to being a baseball scout. What I do is I try to get really great prospects on the radar screens of our news directors. We have more than 60 of them. And in Sinclair, we do have an internal program. I think this is something that kind of sets us apart from other companies, where it's called upward mobility, where it presents the possibility to people that we hire to be able to move from one market size to another. We had a morning reporter at one of our stations in Quincy, Illinois, which is, I believe it's in the 160s area when it comes to market size. She was originally from the Northeast. That was her first job. She came with so much energy and verve, and so much. She's such an electric personality, in addition to being a solid storyteller. She's a morning anchor and did morning reporting. She's interested, came from a sports background as well, but she also did news. She wanted to go from that market to our station in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is, I believe, market 86. I take that back. I think it's in the 60s. So she went from Quincy, Illinois, to Cheesehead Land, to the home of the Packers, Green Bay, Wisconsin. What happened was she was on this internal thing we have for our news employees called Upward Mobility, where she created a profile of herself. Our news hiring managers have access to that to find out what kind of talent we have that's already in the company. And one of many benefits to working for Sinclair is that when she made that move, it was an intercompany move, even though it was a huge market jump for her, and it was going to a market that she wanted to be in. Her benefits moved with her, so she didn't have to start at ground zero again. I think it's something different that Sinclair does that perhaps other companies may not do. I hope that answered your question. Is there anything I left out there?
No, I just know that you have a family, and I know that time is very of the essence. So anything you want to kind of touch base and to wrap things up before I share some of your contact info?
I think that's it. I'm the kind of person I'm open. I want to find out about talent that's out there, and if you're good, like I say, I want to make sure that our hiring managers are aware of you. I'm big on diversity. I am diverse. It's where I come from, and it's a passion of mine. I know when I was a part of the staff of NAHJ, we worked with the staffs of the other Unity groups, former Unity groups now, although AAJ is still in Unity. It's an important thing. For us, it's important that our news organizations reflect the audience. But even beyond that, it's my fervent belief that the best candidates for jobs come from every community. And I want to make sure that that's something that's reflected in the talent pool that we're considering.
All right, and we share your contact info as well as mine. For those of you who are watching either now or later, this is Kevin. This is all your stuff. We contact really well on email. You're very fast at it. And then also we're connected through LinkedIn. Any other ways that you prefer?
All those are fine. I'm big on LinkedIn as well. A lot of people find me there. You were asking before, how do you find recruiters? For me, it's pretty easy for people to find me. I've got a lot of contacts there. I do often put up information about some of the hot jobs that we have within our company. We average about 200 openings a month because we're such a large company. We have such a large reach. So the other little piece of advice that I often give to people as well is, if you're interested in a particular property and they don't have an opening at the moment, don't let that stop you. Don't put up roadblocks that you don't need to have in front of you. There are enough out there already. If you're interested in a community or in a particular station or a particular news organization, send your stuff anyway. The worst that'll happen is they'll say no, but if they like your stuff, if a news manager likes your stuff, turnover is kind of is an often occurring thing in journalism, where if somebody leaves and that position can't be left open, and that news director already has your stuff and likes you, there's a very good chance you might get a call.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it. Stay on the line after this. But guys, first, Kevin, thank you for your time. I know that this is a very busy day and all the information, and this is going to go on YouTube so people can replay this and you can share this. But this is something that, we pride ourselves as small market broadcasters to really help out other journalists who are either in college or in small markets, because like you said, Kevin, it's tough. So we get it and want to make it a little bit more easy for everybody else. So thank you for watching and have a good day.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.